part of Specialist format. As you can see, you have to bring
to the Hearthstone Championship Tour in the last year. A very recognizable face at this point. Just a fantastic performance over the years. He's bringing top right with the copy decklist QR code.
He doesn't like it. He thinks it's too slow. You don't have enough hand space a lot of the time as Mage to be able to play it. But Feno clearly blazing his own path here with his Mage deck, which for the moment, obviously, the first game of the series has to play his primary deck. So a lot less threats, very light of a deck, not really equipped to be beating Warrior.
Now, we said that, of course, and Kalento made pretty good work of Boston in game number 1. And if I'm going to reference Boston's list in the past and compare it to Bunnyhoppor's, they're quite similar. If I can manage to separate paper.
You got to lick your finger in there.
Had a copy of Super Collider in the main deck for Boston.
Yep.
Didn't get it done. Still only one copy of Brawl for each.
So basically, this deck is not equipped to beat Mage. The primary deck.
For Bunnyhoppor?
For Bunnyhoppor.
2 Omega Devastators, 1 Brawl.
No Execute, no Super Collider.
Yeah, it's tough.
Obviously, the tertiary deck for him with double Big Game Hunter, Brawl, and double Super Collider is significantly more equipped to deal with it.
Now, the big thing to really look at there is the difference in tempo that's going to be here, where I feel like Bunnyhoppor is off to a really good start here with Town Crier, Augmented Alec, and with Militia Commander. Yeah. But he just does not have the backup for this. Archivist and Lysiana already drawn. I know that at times when I play this matchup, I either feel like I'm super dominant from the Warrior side or a complete reversal of roles. I don't feel like it's close.
I can see that. It is a weird matchup, and there's a lot of counterplay that Bunnyhoppor needs to be aware of, I think, in that just tempoing out his minions turn after turn is not necessarily the best way to approach this, because you don't want to make your opponent's Sea Giants and Rabble Mounts too cheap. That can really help hurt your game plan if you're giving them extra minions to cast those Conjurer's Callings.
Ooh. Apologize that Bunnyhoppor's camera is experiencing some technical issues. We know that you want to see him think, and so do I. We're going to try to get that fixed as quickly as we can. That'll have to do for now.
That'll do, Pig. And for Bunnyhoppor here, it's actually having cast division here and being able to see both players' hands makes this a lot easier, because for him, depending on what his opponent's hand is, massively shapes how he wants to play this. If it's full of the Mana Cyclone nonsense with the Sorcerer's Apprentice, having down the...
Feno's in for quite a series if this is bothering him.
Having down the project could have helped to clear them off. But in the end, he ropes the entire turn and then coins 3 drop.
Well, I mean, this is Bunnyhoppor in a nutshell.
Yes.
He takes his time to think about these situations because he's not necessarily thinking about now. He's thinking about turn 4 and turn 5 and turn 6, helping to develop a game plan and trying to catch every single thing. I actually talked with Bunnyhoppor right after his match with Viper at the World Championship, where he had lost a series in Game 5 in a very close 5-game set. And the first thing he said to me was, "I can't believe I messed up in the first game." And I go, "What do you mean?" And he turn 3, he made a mistake, and that, to his claim to me, was the reason that he lost the series versus Viper was that one mistake. Wow. Why not take your time?
Yeah.
If you're taking all your time and still making mistakes sometimes, it's just a lot more complicated than it seems like on the onset.
I fully agree. And it was not even that easy of a turn. Like, if you coin 3 drop here, you have no follow-up. You're waiting until turn 4 before you can even develop anything whatsoever. And like you said, it turns out yet again that these very self-critical players are always the ones who are rising up to the top.
In contrast, Feno, I think, very much, in totality, a different kind of player than Bunnyhoppor is, where I think the pace of play for Feno, almost the quicker it is, the more comfortable he is.
Yeah.
And I felt like, watching players for half a decade now, like, being in your own groove is so important to playing good Hearthstone.
Yeah. I fully agree. I think Feno is... I'm trying to think of a nice way to say it. He's one of the most self-confident players but that's good, because he's really blooming good at Hearthstone. He should believe he's very fantastic at the game. And it's kind of in contrast to a lot of the other players, where even though he is one of the all-time great grinders, he just was seshing ladder every single season, always getting top 25 at the end. He just gets the game. He doesn't really have to work especially hard to be at the top level, even though he does to perfect his play. He's just always really been up at the highest level of Hearthstone. He just gets it.
Picked up his tour stop win in Orange County.
That's right.
Last year. That was an incredible final between him and Casey.
I remember it well. I was rooting for both players very heavily there. They both deserve to win so bad.
It is tough to root for both players. It really is, but by golly, I couldn't help but do it at that event. There was just no way I wasn't going to do that.
Yeah.
And so for Bunnyhoppor here, the interesting turn has arisen where how much do you care about a mountain giant? And if I'm in Bunnyhoppor's spot, the answer is a lot.
Oh, absolutely. We've seen in the previous games, like with Boston, where he double shield slammed both the Grave Horrors that came off the Giant because you don't want them to copy them again. Conjurer's Call is too scary.
Yeah, so if you contrast that game that Kalento had, where he was patient on the Giant and just hero powering down a Clockwork Goblin, it's very different than facing down an Augmented Alec, where it takes you 4 hero powers instead of 3. And additionally, it's threatening to generate extra bombs instead of having already done that. You know, I think Kalento had the liberty of being very patient in that scenario. I don't necessarily believe that's true for Fino in this game.
I agree with you, and I think the other reason is that Kalento, the only minions in his hand that were good to cast Conjurer's Calling on were the Giants. That was it. Whereas here, obviously, Fino is opted to put the Rabble Bouncers in his deck, which is another very powerful minion to get the Conjurer's Call on.
Just visually, the difference between
weapons,
the way the two players are working is just so grand to me.
Fino has already played his turn before it's even started.
And if this was Fino versus Fino, we would have had a Dinomatic already played and probably some sort of Mana Cyclone turn that resulted in a different hand than we're currently looking at.
Yeah. Oh, we'd be long gone. I'd be back at the apartment by now.
What now?
Casting it like it's a... I don't know, what's cast really fast? I was trying to think of something and I just couldn't. I started to realize...
What is cast fast?
Like, where there's like high-paced action and it's a constant go.
Hearthstone. An auction.
Ah, like yeah, like an auction.
Like an auctioneer.
Like an auctioneer. Not one from Gadgets In, though. He doesn't do much talking after that first line.
As now for Fino, it's that kind of hand that you end up with a lot where without a mountain giant in hand, no matter how much stuff you have in hand, it doesn't make much difference. Then nothing will make the Rabble Bouncer cheaper here other than obviously your opponent developing, which you can't control. And so even though he can pop off with a Mana Cyclone turn here, unless he hits exactly Arcane Intellect or Research Project off of the spells from that, he's not getting any closer to his big threats.
I think this is the nice middle ground. Yep. Good old Ziliax. Just a good card.
Understatement of the year.
And so now how Bunnyhoppor responds is getting interesting to me as well, because if you just Militia Commander here, that's pretty much your last real piece of removal for a bit. But at the same time, you want to save Weapons Project to activate the Shield Slam that's there.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you're afraid of a Giant in the coming turns, or your opponent just dropping Rabble Bouncer, we could see Militia Commander Hero Power this turn to clear off the minion. Next turn, Hero Power plus the Weapons Project, even if your opponent pings your face, still gets you up to 8. And then you can obviously Shield Slam to finish off one of the big threats. So
just trying to bridge the gap to the Omega Devastators.
Pretty much.
That's really the puzzle here.
Much.
One of the big things that has happened to me too with playing Warrior is when I run out of gas, I've had like this major apprehensiveness behind playing Archivist Elysiana.
Right, I was going to talk about Elysiana next. Yeah,
we'll go on.
Well, I was just wondering, you're the expert. What would you think of playing Elysiana on turn 8? Assuming your opponent doesn't develop a minion that you have to remove, do you just play it because it's a 7/7 body? And also, you can find some good anti-mage cards off of the Discover. There's a lot of removal in Warren.
I think 8's a little bit early.
Okay.
But I've only been in the situation a couple times where I think it's been reasonable to, you know, even consider Elysiana was capable of winning the game.
Right.
I'm starting to believe that when you get in that situation where you're just out of gas, it's probably better to do it. Now, this is one of the dire situations that Bunnyhopper's run into. A giant came down and it got Conjurer's Calling. You need to clear both, and you can't.
What now?
You know, I think about that Ziliax now. Was it simply better to just Warpath Ziliax?
Right.
You know, was it simply better to just take some hits from Ziliax? I don't know. It's a difficult question to answer because your tendency with Control Warrior and one of the major benefits of the deck is that it clears things fairly efficiently.
Yeah, it's very interesting point. And I mean, like you can just see here, this is the situation where if you had double Super Collider in your deck, you just smack these two together and you're laughing all the way to the bank. But for the moment, it's not that simple.
Yeah, looking at Bunnyhopper's tertiary deck, which I imagine will be in play for game number 2. 2 copies of Super Collider, the second copy of Brawl, 2 copies of Big Game Hunter.
Yeah.
Are what's on slate to be added. Like in this situation here, Bunnyhopper really, I think, needs to consider what is it like just play a Eternium over.
Also,
need the fact that your opponent's going to get some development.
It's worth pointing out that Bunnyhopper knows that there is a Conjurer's Call in Feno's hand because Feno opted to play the first half of the other Conjurer's Call in his hand rather than play the second half of the discovered Conjurer's Call in his hand, presumably to keep his hand size as high as possible, which, you know, makes sense to go for that. But it does mean that Bunnyhopper has more information is the trade-off with that line of play.
I am really wondering when this Mana Cyclone turn happens. When you just pop off.
There's Conjurer's hand space at the moment. Like
we haven't really seen Khadgar have a pop off today.
I don't think we've seen Khadgar once.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's in the deck list. Speaking of popping off, however.
Yeah, that looks good to me.
Runs out on
How many Conjurer's Calling has he got?
He's got 1 half left. Yeah, that's a right on turn 9 as well. This is really that moment where it's critical to have a way to wipe board, and Bunnyhopper doesn't have that.
Ooh, Harrison can't draw you through to a brawl.
This is really, honestly, this is such a good lesson here from Feno because this is, I think, one of the keys to his success all year long. Was there were 2 things that Feno would do. Number 1, he would wait until it was so good against his opponent's ideal turn to make his power plays, and then number 2, he would just use resources to avoid disaster scenarios happening. He would actively go out his way and make worse looking plays to keep the absolute worst game-losing turn from happening to you.
So how has that happened here?
Well, he's taken away the ability for Bunnyhopper to do anything good on turn 9. Like, it's literally only Brawl is the only good play here.
Right. Okay, yeah, so it's just making your opponent have the...
yeah, like if you do this on turn 8 and your opponent has an answer, like, you have no way to disrupt them on turn 9. They're free to just develop and bridge the gap.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But for the moment, it does just look like Bunnyhopper is, like you said, unable to deal with what Feno is throwing down. What is that? 14, 22 damage that can come through there.
23, 24, 25 with the Banana Buffoon. So he needs 2 damage.
Yeah, still just ever so slightly off, which he could, of course, go for off the Mana Cyclone.
I think that's the turn for it.
What to do? What to do?
Get in there, you buffoon. What buffoonery is this? Chuck in 1 Ray of Frost.
So by staying at 4 mana, he has Fireball for an out, as well as obviously Frostbolt.
This also gives him the deal 2 damage at a 1/2. That's not in the format anymore. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was Angora.
Well, we're gonna go for it again.
Runs out on
Ooh, nothing quite there, but Counterspell just to disrupt your opponent. That little bit more is a great way to keep things rolling, as it does need to be the Brawl right now for there to be any chance whatsoever.
And by the way, they're at 3.
They are also at 3, I will give you that.
And that's going to wrap up that game. Bunnyhoppor cannot fight back with the cards in hand.
And this is a really interesting development for how I think the meta will shape out overall over the next few weeks, because it looks like this kind of build of Bomb Warrior that's very light on removal, much more tempo-oriented, doesn't seem to beat this mage. It just seems to lack the threats that you need to disrupt their power turns. So maybe even if
we're taking out 2 weapons projects, a Harrison Jones, an Archivist, and an Eternium Rover. We're adding in 2 Big Game Hunter, 2 Super Colliders, and the second copy of Brawl.
So basically, more threats for the mage, more removal for the warrior.
I feel like that favors the mage.
I agree. I think the reason that on ladder you're seeing warriors tech in Super Colliders and Big Game Hunters is that if it went against the standard ladder mage, which is fairly light on threats, it destroys it. They just always run out of threats.
Yeah.
Dr. Boom gets there. You really, really struggle to push it there. But when you're playing, as you highlighted, double Astromancer, Hexlord Malakras, Antonidas, and a Power of Creation as well, that is where it starts to get very difficult to find enough removal for all of them. Because, I mean, look at this starting hand now for Fino, right? Even just this being given back by Hexlord Malakras is huge.
Yeah, you get an extra Mountain Giant.
Another Giant on its own is insane. Obviously, there's no Conjurer's Calling in hand, which is the real dream. But it's good enough, I would wager. He got me with that one. that was just funny.
Even Fino knows it was funny.
Yeah, he's like, rope the town crier.
Solid
choice.
Looks like a tough one. But again, that's Bunnyhoppor.
Yeah, I know. It's just, yeah. I mean, I agree with you. He should do whatever makes him win the most amount of games of Hearthstone, obviously within the rules, which roping absolutely is. It's just funny.
At this point, he has to rope it all for consistency's sake.
Yes.
You start to give away information if you don't. This is this is the world you built for yourself, Bunnyhoppor.
Wait, he didn't want to play one of his 2-drops, which is now exclusively Warpath in his tertiary deck. It's giving away.
Well, it could have been an Eternium Rover or a second Town Crier.
Fair enough. He's not playing.
I'm sorry, it could have been
exactly the one of Eternium Rover in his deck.
Yeah, it could have been exactly that. It could have been a weapons project. Maybe you want to let it rip.
He took both of those out.
Could have been...
This is where I feel like some great content is just, what's Bunny thinking about?
He wanted to get damaged. So that way... Ah, the Elysiana's out! He can't even discover Battle Rage! Gosh darn it! All right, I'm out of ideas.
This is next level dumb. We've gone through the eye of the looking glass on this one. But here we go. Things really starting to ramp up now for Fino. He has got what is pretty close to the dream hand, actually, I would say. Being able to go for a really nice early Giant and the Conjurer's Calling. This is the thing, is that in this deck where he's running Hexlord Malakras, it can feel a little bit slow because all of your threats aren't necessarily quick threats. Some of them are a little bit slower. However, when you get the hand like this where you have draw, you have threats, you have removal as well, or just stall rather, in the form of Ray of Frost. This is just everything you want in a deck.
Yeah, you don't really care so much, I feel like, about the pressure from the opposing side. It's pretty slow, it's fairly clunky. It can get there, but I would say for the most part, you know, it's just slow. It doesn't work that well.
I agree that you're not afraid of dying to your opponent's pressure. What you are afraid of is them being able to clear one of your threats with their minions, where the Ray of Frost, I think, really helps to stop them from being able to kill off your Mountain Giant so that you can go for the Conjurer's Call.
Starts to threaten a Sea Giant here as well. This was an interesting play for Fino because it sends a mixed signal to Bunnyhoppor, where I feel like Sea Giant is now something that he will begin to consider because it was Protect the Sorcerer's Apprentice and freeze the Elec to protect the mirror images. Like, it's just a very interesting spot to look at.
Yeah, I mean, I would actually argue as well that the mind games it plays on Bunny is a secondary effect of what this plan does, whereas the main thing is he clearly doesn't want to play Giant next turn, because playing the mirror images means he doesn't have the mana to do that. So he's trying to clear out space from his hand so that he can play Arcane Intellect, and then on turn 5, go for Giant and Conjurer's Calling on the same turn. Which I think is a very valid way to go about it. That's what we saw from Kolento early on, where you just hold your Giant explicitly to go with the Conjurer's Calling as well.
We're going to add a second Elec to board, and I feel like something's got to give here.
To be fair, this is just a decent curve for Bunny. If he were to go, if none of these are cleared off and Clockwork Goblin comes down next turn, that's 3 bombs that you're shuffling in. Or is it 4? Is it cumulative effect? Like if you're shuffling one from the other?
Nope.
Just 3. Yeah, okay. Just
additional. 1 additional. Ooh, if it doubled.
Well, I was just wondering because the first one shuffles in 2 bombs technically, so does the second one shuffle in an extra one for each one you're shuffling in?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. But I think you're still right.
The old have Wrench Caliber equipped and go into Elec, Clockwork Goblins, swing the Reg.
Choice.
Here's 8 bombs in your deck.
And Feeno's just like, I guess I'll die.
Shrug it off.
Still does a reasonable turn though for Bunny. Like, tempoing out here for him, it doesn't accomplish much, but it's not bad. It keeps the pressure on Feeno, which means, you know, maybe he can kill off one of the Giants. Maybe it means Feeno can't make the absolute dream plays he wants to because he's under that little bit of pressure.
Correct. The dream plays are pretty much null and void here for Feeno, because if it's Giant into Conjurer's Calling, you know, Super Collider is ready in Bunnyhopper's hand.
And it's just absurd. This Feeno, he didn't take out... Yeah, sorry. So still got Harrison Jones in his tertiary deck, which could be important to take out one of these Super Colliders.
That's the lone way to stop a Super Collider, though. You know, Kolento had a copy of Frostbolt in there as well.
That's a good point.
You think about Kolento's anti-aggro list, some of the cards did serve the alternative purpose, like the Frostbolt. Being able to just stop a Super Collider for 1 turn is enough to pay off.
It's huge.
On the Conjurer's Calling.
Because that can just bait out a Brawl. Or if they don't have it, they're just dead.
It just deals 16 damage, and then they have to take 8 more to use the Super Collider.
Low flare.
You can't not go for this.
Yeah, it's pretty much the only thing he can go for. With this much meat in your hand, you need to start getting some of it onto the table.
I mean, perhaps he's able to wait. You know, I think that there's a chance he is, but it's really tough.
You just go for it.
So in Bunnyhopper's spot, I guess the question is, are you more interested in keeping the Clockwork Goblin around because it's a mech? Or are you more interested in keeping the Augmented Elec around for its effect?
Oh, that's an interesting point. And obviously the extra stat that it has on health. Oh, I think that's actually really close. Because you have specifically Ziliax in hand, I think it probably leans towards the mech.
Dynamatic as well.
Alive. Oh, that's true. Yeah, good point. And because you have no shuffle cards in hand either.
Always hurts when it's the Grave Robber into the Giant.
Yeah.
You'll just lose a minion.
Yeah, that was the best outcome there.
Wow, keep the mech around. Kind of weird.
I like it. I think it's a good point you bring up, and I think you made the right choice. And now for actual threats available to Feeno. There ain't much.
Yeah, it's delayed a turn. You know, again, I think just the pressure in general, though, the timing matters. And I think this is the spot where it matters the most, just simply because Bunnyhopper has Blastmaster Boom in hand. So I think that the timing of his pressure is not going to be able to outpace Bunnyhopper here.
That's true. That's a very good point. Because it will be, there's 2 bombs in the deck, I believe, with no Wrench Caliber being played, and just an Elect effect off the Clockwork Goblin being shuffled in.
5 Boombots, I mean, or 4 Boombots.
Yeah, I mean, that's insane. That is absolutely absurd. I'm not trying to downplay it whatsoever.
Like I'm looking at Feeno's spot, I'm trying to figure out something crazy that can happen.
I mean, he can pop off with Sorcerer's Apprentice on this turn. I mean, I say pop off, he can play cards. And he can keep his hand size full even then, like just playing out the mirror image to make sure he gets a nice big Astromancer as well.
Wow.
Yeah, like this turn was never going to be very good, so I think this is the best of bad situation. The removal really stacking up for Bunnyhoppor now. And in addition to that, like you said, just the threat, Blastmaster Boom on its own is insane. It's a little bit scary because of Sea Giant and Rabble Bouncer.
I don't think it is. You have Big Game Hunter in your hand. Also, the Rabble Bouncers are out for Feno right now.
I mean, I agree. It's just
I'm be shocked
unfortunately,
if he didn't play this.
So would I. It's just I was feeling a little bit too happy for him, and I'm English, so I had to kind of bring that down to a strong neutral of about -3.
It's an excellent spot to be at.
Yeah.
-3.
Well, I go from -10 to +10. It's my scale.
Okay. Where are you at right now?
I'm having a good time. I'm like a strong 1.
Where's Feno at right now?
He's just been Blastmaster boomed. That's like easily a -6.
Okay.
Actually, I should probably reevaluate that. If that's the scale of all things that are possible to happen in the world, -6 is probably a bit strong.
I wonder.
My calculations are flawless. I bring life and hope.
That's fine. It's up to a -5.
I think that's going to dwindle awfully quick.
Yeah. So how do we clear this up? The Super Collider, you could maybe just save that.
I want to use the Collider and the Ziliax.
Yeah, I guess the big game hunter is very valuable resource.
I think it's also fine to use the Militia Commander. I was just thinking exactly for turn 9, clogging the hand a bit.
Do you ever want to make some of these bombs die so that the thing I was talking about of Rabble Bouncer and Sea Giant becomes a little bit less scary?
Well, again, the Rabble Bouncers are out. They have been removed.
Oh, they've been taken out. Oh, sorry, my mistake. Okay.
For the
So
tertiary
it's just Sea Giant. Okay, in that case, I guess you're happy just happily plodding along.
We'll attach to the Boombot. The Boombot now has Lifesteal and the Death Rattle effect as well.
Oh, yeah.
Cool interaction
Yeah, that is a
for,
cool interaction.
for those of you who have not experienced that yet.
You can just call me out, Nathan. It's all right. I get it.
Well, I'm just... When it hits for 4 and you get 4 more life on top of that, you're like, come on, Boombot. Like, how much can you do?
That doesn't even make sense. How did that suck my life out? It's just a bomb. And here we go. Just trying to pop off with Luna as the way to stay alive, really, more so than anything else.
Well, I mean, this is a great turn for it, though. So the problem is Khadgar gets drawn immediately, so that stops the cycling.
Does it? Can you afford to just play it to keep drawing? I guess, yeah, you go for the magic trick first because it puts the card on the right-hand side.
Stuff is appealing. Icicle's appealing as well.
Just magic trick is also appealing. Although I guess you're running into hand space issues then, but it's a 0 mana draw a card and discover a card.
Behold the tools of creation.
Ooh, that might encourage Feno to hang on for a turn.
Well, I think you want to play Mirror Image, right, just to stop the Super Collider from clearing off both your minions.
Definitely like that.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Oh, maybe it's in the face of Warpath? So if Bunny Warpath's here, all the Boombots activate, and your mirror images maybe get to soak up some of the hits?
Okay. That doesn't convince me. That is surprising, though, because I was fully anticipating you save the Ray of Frost to freeze Dr. Boom again next turn.
I'm anticipating if Feno doesn't have something colossal happen next turn, he's not in the game.
Yes.
So,
No, I fully agree.
And so, yeah, I can see it both ways.
I wonder.
Defend the gates.
This game is weird.
And he's
Shield
actually...
Slam. Yeah,
Yeah.
lets him clear off.
Shield Slam is the nuts against Mage, and he Shield Slammed a mirror image.
Whoa, he's setting up something. I'm killing that Luna, that Sorcerer. When your opponent does weird stuff, blow it up.
I agree.
And when your opponent's still alive, blow him up.
And I think this is, again, a lesson that I apparently refuse to learn, is that Bomb Warrior is not a purely control deck. It just gets you. Like, look how absurd this was for Bunnyhoppor. Fino, because it was so perfectly timed for Bunnyhoppor, these threats that came down, Fino just really had nothing he could do. And then I think this comes back to the question you were asking of should Fino have waited a turn. On turn 5, when he went Giant, Coin, Conjurer's Calling, I have to be honest, I kind of scoffed at you because I thought, you never wait. You just always get these threats out onto the board and pray that it gets there. But maybe because it worked out exactly where he knew that if these 2 minions were cleared, turns timely, Blast Master, boom as well. So I think in the standard deviation, Fino will be in a much better spot in this series.
Game number 3 is underway. Brawl opening hand for Bunnyhoppor, I think pretty likely to be kept. Although tempo seemed to be an important facet in this game.
And I think that's the benefit of playing a deck like his tertiary deck, which obviously has double BGH, double Super Collider, double Brawl, is you have such redundancy of removal. You have so many board clears and a strong single target removal that maybe you can just hit the curve cards because you know you are so likely to hit the removal later on.
I am quite interested in that because I have, admittedly, I've taken a step back from the Bomb Warrior play and just focused a lot on Control Warrior since it's something I really anticipated a lot of players bringing this week, and just Bomb Warrior was, far and away the pick. Bunnyhoppor mulligans the whole hand away, and I think if you're not going to hold on to Brawl, I agree with that. I think you should be firing the whole hand away and searching for your Super Colliders, your Elix, your Clockwork Goblins, your Wrench Calibers.
I agree. I would also throw... Would you agree that Dr. Boom goes in that mix as well? I think it's good enough to throw down later on because, again, like I said, you have so much removal early on.
It's kind of interesting. Like, the Brawl has me quite curious about the mulligan because I feel like you brought in a second one. It's a super powerful card in the matchup, but you do need to find the actual pinpointed removal as well.
Okay.
Like a single giant is still a threat.
And so, well, that is what I mean, is that early on, Brawl is not that good. It's better saved for later, right? When they go for a Khadgar plus plus Power of Creation or something like that later on. Whereas turn 5, Super Collide is way better.
You're thinking rather than be forced to use a Brawl early on,
save it for when it's really good.
You'd rather risk not drawing it so that you could have it later on.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I think it's so likely that he finds some kind of removal for the mid game that he doesn't need to keep the slightly suboptimal early game card of Brawl with a stunning hand.
Fino, frustrated with the pace of play from Bunnyhoppor.
He's an impatient guy. It's fair to say.
Well, get ready to roll your eyes again then. Now that we've got that attack out of the way.
That was always happening. You know that one's coming in.
That's my favorite part of playing Hearthstone with somebody as we're playing the same game, is we go into turns, we go, well, we always know this is happening, and it's like the most obvious thing. And then you figure the rest of the turn out, which always ends up in a horrible mess because you're in that mindset of this is always happening.
Yeah.
It goes downhill real quick.
Yeah. So for Fino, he has obviously the capability to set up for a giant on curve next turn. Counterspell and AI are both pretty juicy, actually. I guess because he doesn't have the Conjurer's Calling in hand, he really needs to turbo through to that. But I don't know. I think Counterspell could have been very powerful.
This is a tough spot. I think I personally take the AI as well.
I think I probably would as well.
My debate is the coin. Do I coin the Arcane Intellect here?
What to do?
So
you're floating 2 mana.
Yeah. I mean, well, you're picking a 1/1. It does something, right?
Is that really anything?
So I think
then you're occupying 3 mana next turn, which means you float a mana.
Right. But I think the problem is that the coin is going to be very likely very valuable in this matchup. like we saw, turn 6 in the last game, he did nothing. He basically just floated the entire turn, just playing out a Banana Buffoon or some nonsense. So being able to coin into an Astromancer on a later turn could be very powerful indeed.
I think it's just the fact that his hand is just kind of bad. Like, you just need something here.
Yeah.
And for Bunnyhoppor, it's pretty rare that I just want to jam down Omega Devastator because I love holding on to that card, but this is the spot.
You like just tempoing out?
Oh, yeah. You have Ziliax in hand, you have Super Collider, Militia Commander, Dinomatic. Like, where are you going to lose tempo this game if you stick a Ziliax onto an Omega Devastator?
It's true. What does that go up to? 7 attack?
7/7 Divine Shield.
That's true, actually. So if you go Omega Devastator here, Ziliax to magnetize onto it, and then the 1/1 as well, perfectly takes out a Giant.
Yeah.
I like the sound of that a lot.
Sometimes Chillwind Yeti. It's just good enough.
Pretty chill.
And I think Fino here might be forced into playing a Giant.
So how does it shake out for him usually? If he gets hit with Big Game Hunter, obviously he's miserable.
Oh, well, he's just dead then.
Yeah.
Sometimes...
Okay, do you think if you were to just cover up your opponent's hand there and pretend that you're Fenomeno, do you think you ever make the read that Ziliax is in hand? Does the tempoing out of the Omega Devastator indicate that there's a Ziliax in hand?
I think it opens the possibility more, like in a weird technical sense, but I don't think you have a solid enough read to really make that distinction. Like, Bunnyhoppor had no opportunity to play Ziliax, and it's very likely he just plays the Omega Devastator anyway. You're not doing anything. You just coined an AI, so, you punish that with tempo.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think I agree with you.
I think he's got to go for Giant.
He could go Evocation, Giant, Mirror Image, which protects it against...
Yeah, I'm okay with that as well.
Yeah, traded into with minions. Or Ray of Frost. Ray of Frost.
I like the Ray of Frost, because the Mirror Image will discount, technical discount the Sea Giant.
Yes. Okay, yeah. You want to save that for a little bit. It does play around the Ziliax very nicely indeed.
Oh,
doesn't play around
boy.
that, though. And this is
huge draw.
the quickest turn you will ever see Bunnyhoppor make in your life. That is a guarantee.
Oh, my. Whoa. Huge Game Hunter.
Leave this man's game. You are uninvited.
That's just not fair.
Yeah.
Good luck.
He could have gone like Mirror Image Giant.
I think
like...
you got to try to pop off here. I think if here it doesn't happen, it's not happening this game.
Oh, he can still. Yeah, sorry. He can still play the Giant on this turn, just with the Sorcerer's Apprentice put in as well. I like this a lot.
Yeah, it's just like, look what just happened. Like, you got to do something here, or you are not winning the game.
I knew that the BGH was going to come off the top. Felt it in my toes.
Deep in those Darok bones. That's what they call him. They've been calling him that for years.
Old Darok.
Darok Bones Brown. Darok deep in the bones brown. There we go.
Not sure which one sounds more suspect, to be perfectly honest.
And this is a good spot for Fino also to make a development push like this because of the way Bunnyhoppor's some of the removal interacts. Like, you think about board tension against some other matchups, for instance, where the chip damage is going to be massive.
Yeah.
In this spot, the chip damage is mitigated because of the mirror image. And at the same time, if Bunnyhoppor's interested in just clearing out a Sea Giant, it often means that, Brawl is the way to do that. Brawling here is not good.
Yeah, this is the perfect spot for Fino to kind of hide his Giant behind these pesky little taunts. And, I mean, who knows? If he can get a Conjurer's Call off of Arcane Intellect, whoa, this could be the swing that he needs.
What's happening here? What shenaniganry is this? How?
Wow, I did not see that play. That was sick.
That was sick.
That was way better than Brawl, because Warpath is not a very good card in the matchup. Brawl is. Really nice play there from Bunnyhoppor,
Yeah,
I think.
I mean, and to be fair, Brawl sucked in that spot, but he found a way to utilize Warpath in a situation where I thought he was just going to have to, kind of sling it back and just go, well, If you're going to muck up the board, I got to do the same. Instead, he mitigated the board pressure.
It did suck, but it was tempting, because you know that stuff can go wrong if you leave a siege over. But I guess the way that you respond to that is by just playing Brawl.
And now Bunnyhopper's, gassed a bit.
So what does he do?
He might not do anything.
Hero power pass?
I mean, your opponent has just completely dismantled your assault.
Yeah.
I don't think that Ziliax or a 3-4 is really bringing the beats at this point. I think you have to start thinking in defensive measures here. So maybe you can Ziliax as a preemptive play?
Because it's very often the fact with Conjurer's Call that the minions are not quite the same size to be killed with Super Collider, right?
Yeah.
You need a little bit of extra helping hand to get over the finish line, and because obviously he could not play 2 5-mana cards next turn, like you said, preloading the Ziliax, I think might be a good way to make sure he can always kill whatever comes out with a Super Collider.
I must choose. Unity, precision, perfection.
My calculations are
Wow.
flawless. So custom.
That was quick!
That was super quick.
I thought that was like an alarm bot effect that was triggering like before the turn ban had even gone away.
And you mentioned it, the minions are not necessarily the same size, and so it needs that little bit of oomph from Ziliax to get this done. Super Collider the 3/6.
Yeah, works out beautifully. And you can even just fit in the Clockwork Goblin as well.
Ooh, I wonder if there's any merit to not using the Clockwork Goblin. Although I suppose if Fino played Sea Giant, you're happy with that, given you have the Dynamatic to pay off.
Yeah. So if you have 2 minions on board, yeah, that perfectly allows it. I think you're just fine then. Yeah, you just trade in and Dynamatic. But it's an interesting point. You could save it for a potential Doctor Boon as well, where every single minion is just removal. But by playing it here, it kind of sets up for a removal next turn.
And Fino certainly is going to be interested in Harrison Jones this turn.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Which, it's worth saying, he would get another one of after he plays Hexalord Malakras for if the other Super Collider comes down.
Okay. So he gets to clear off Ziliax here.
It's not the worst.
The Curio Collector, I believe its name is. +1/+1 whenever you draw a card.
Yep.
Not going to be able to stick around for too long here. However, now we're seeing a very different game with Malakras where, this board state has stayed fairly even. But
It's just ahead, right? Like,
well, not necessarily. I mean, he's taken 3. There's bombs in the deck and Dynamatics adding to the board.
okay. Yeah, okay.
So I think you're in trouble, but I think that you can get out of it is really the key factor here. Bunny's pretty gassed.
He needs that boom. Either one,
Boom,
to be honest.
Omega Devastator. Yeah, Blastmaster.
Light the fuses.
We're reaching the point where Big Game Hunter and Super Collider still may be enough because of the tempoed pressure. Oh, boy.
And to be fair, if Fino doesn't roll, if he rolls double Mountain Shine, assuming here, sorry, that he goes for Giant Conjure.
Well, what else you got to do in
okay.
this spot?
I just wanted to clarify my point. If he was to get double Mountain Giant off of that, we could actually be entering a state where Bunnyhoppor could go for surprise bomb lethals.
All right, well, now the stage is set.
What now?
So you pretty much always start with Shield Block, I'm thinking. Unless you want to save that for powering up a Shield Slam.
I'm thinking about a lot of different things here, and the first one that comes to my head is, can Bunnyhoppor afford to do close to nothing this turn? To me, the answer is yes and no, where the no side of it is you don't have really the backup to get this done.
Yeah.
So I think you do start with Shield Block. And so now that's happened, the question is, what are you going to do if Fino does not really do much on the back end of this? He says, you know what, this is just enough. Bunnyhoppor didn't respond to this properly. Hit you for 15, draw some cards, go. That's a bad scenario for Bunnyhoppor. He needs to find a way to have the Brawl swing the game in his favor, or it's not going to work, and that means Brawl right now.
He's just hoping this works out. We've already seen it once today where it worked out very much in the favor of the Brawler. This, however, was not such an occasion. That minion surviving is absolutely massive for Fino.
And we talked about, oh boy.
Okay. Okay, calm down, buddy.
One huge draw deserves another.
Oh, so do you ever consider going Malacras here just because
No.
you're in a good state on board? So if you ever want to play that,
Look at the...
is that this turn absolutely needs sound effects. It is of that caliber.
Yes. This is a sound effects turn if I've ever seen one. Well, sizable draw.
A medium-sized draw. Medium-large. So what are we hitting? If you hit the one in the middle,
If you hit the one in the middle, it
it has a
threatens
chance
to...
of hitting the giant. Do you prefer that?
That's an interesting question. It might just not matter at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, actually, if you hit the other one, if you hit the one on the right, you can always clear both of them.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
I meant like in terms of like hitting the one in the middle. Like, its attack to either side doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think you always want to be able to clear it.
Yep.
Light the fuses!
Wow!
Whoa!
Wow! It's not quite supposed to happen that way.
That's so good. I mean, like,
And now Khadgar gets drawn after the Conjurer's Calling gets used.
okay.
We got a game here.
So for the Malacras, there wasn't a Conjurer's Calling in the starting hand, I don't believe.
Mountain Giant, Elemental
Harrison.
Evocation, Harrison, and I want to say Mirror Image.
I wonder.
I could believe that. I'm not even. I think the Mountain Giant might have been the first card he drew after his starting hand as well. I think. I remember him getting it off the top.
Someday I'll be
But either way, the Harrison alone would be huge here when your opponent's just got Super Collider.
Fino's interested in making a push.
Ooh, Khadgar Power of Creation. That's the backup.
That's a good reason to make a push here as well. Is you have 2 Mana Cyclones to just like fuel some stuff, and then you also have the benefit of digging closer to your Power of Creation. And so Counterspell, the lone spell found, and that's a pretty major deal.
It is, but Fino needs to start be thinking about not only his own development, but just dying here. If he goes down to 10 health from 13, that's just 2 bombs needed to close out this game, full stop. But even then, he's thinking, I'm not playing around that nonsense. I've just got to kill my opponent.
Oh boy.
Ooh, that's a full clear.
Well, do you need to full clear in Bunnyhopper's spot? At least 3 damage is getting sent to the dome.
Okay.
Because you need to set up for the double bombs. That is a portion of what your deck does.
Do you need to?
What
Fino's got 7
now?
cards left. I think you need to.
Okay.
IMHO.
Thank you for your honesty.
In my honest opinion. It definitely doesn't
Oh, I
mean
got
helpful.
that.
Yeah. So Bunnyhopper was thinking of exactly splitting image there.
Yes, and he was also wondering about Counterspell that countered the Warpath, because he could have gone for a Warpath line of play instead. He knows it's not Ice Barrier, he knows it's not Vaporize. He's allowed to just put this face if he wants.
Oh boy.
Here we go. Okay, he's safe for the moment. He gets to make his play, which, as we can clearly see, Fino is loading up.
I mean, that may be the last turn that Bunnyhopper actually gets to attack face as well.
The gates are open.
We like those taunts.
Wow. And there's a counter spell in place.
Yeah.
The gates are open.
Off of the one spell that came off of a Mana Cyclone as well. And obviously for Bunnyhoppor, even if he gets another spell to let the Warpath go, it wouldn't be quite enough to clear off all these 5 health minions.
It is a lot to clear off, though. So Shield Slam gets to absorb the effect from the counter spell. You Warpath 4 times. You get to kill one with Dynomatic. You get to Super Collider the other 2.
Do you need to Warpath at all? If you just Super Collided 2 of them, Shield Slam another one. Oh, you can't kill Khadgar. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's Shield Slam on a 6/5. That gets counterspelled. You have 9 mana remaining. You use Dynomatic to hit one of the 6/5s. You Super Collider 2 of them down. You Warpath 4 times or 3 times, however many is necessary. Which I guess it's 3, and that fits in an armor up.
Okay.
So if that's the case, you could technically armor up first.
So from Bunny's perspective, it could only be Counterspell or Spellbender, right? So either way, if it was Spellbender, actually, it was better to go for Warpath, obviously, to clear them all off first. But playing around the Counterspell absolutely correctly, as he does.
Well, I'm curious about it because I think that in Bunnyhoppor's spot, yep, this looks right to me.
Yep.
You know, you just hope that the bombs pan out. For good measure.
Why not?
Mana efficiency.
Let's have a little fun.
Banana Buffoon
My
Astromancer.
calculations are flawless.
9, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 damage represented, plus the Arcane Missiles. Dr. Boom Mad Genius gets drawn!
Off the top. But that's the worst hero power. So how much damage are we looking at then?
22. I count
16,
22.
18, 19, 22. I agree.
22 is lethal.
That's exact lethal.
Are you
way!
kidding?
Exact lethal!
Because of Banana Buffoon. Because of
Here to save
Banana
the day.
Buffoon.
Not the Core Hound, not the Astromancer, none of that nonsense. That monkey banana boy is here to save the day.
The monkey made the Core Hound. Unreal Pheno. That's a close game 3 that happens there as well. 2 of those 4 cards in Pheno's decks.